Geez. Well, as I think I actually said at the top of the film, I forgot that I had said that because I did a little intro to the film that said, why did this happen? There was a film that came out right after my mom passed away. My dad had already been gone for a year and a half. And it wasn't, as I said, it just was kind of like, what?
Yeah.
It didn't, it was, ugh.
It was awful.
That's the technical term. It didn't answer any of the questions about them, and it was very tabloid-esque, and it left a very bad taste in my mouth. And I was going through a lot of home movies that when your folks go, you know, you clean out the garage, and in our case, the projection room, and found that there were all these endless hours of home movies, but they were 16 millimeter, and so we had them transferred to the highest tech at the time, VHS. And I didn't, because I didn't have a 16 millimeter projector. We weren't going to be able to watch them, and so
I can't work it even now.
and I started watching some of the home movies, and I thought, wow. Just like I said on the film, I'd never seen half of those because they didn't show us the years before we were born, you know? And that combined with seeing this sort of awful, icky film, I thought, yes, you know, look, there's people, there's June Havoc, and there's Van Johnson and Ann Miller, and they worked with them, and Uncle Kenny and Cleo, and why don't we talk to them, and maybe there's a way to get something on film that people could, like a history that's actually accurate, and find out what made these people tick. So I didn't know what I was doing. We just started interviewing people on our own dime and dollar for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, our business manager guy said, okay, so it's about 300 grand now. What are you going to do with this? You got to stop. And so I thought, I don't know, maybe it's a special, maybe it's a television thing. And we took it to Warren Littlefield at NBC, and he said, I showed him 10 minutes of the home movies, the color without sound home movies, and 10 minutes of edited pieces of our interviews. And I said, we have 110 scrapbooks, and we want to try to tell the story of these two people. And he said, we'll give you Valentine's Day night. 9 months from now. Hit it. And that's how we did it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They gave us a limited amount of money. What?
Hold it close.
Can you hear him? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Nightclubs.
RESPECT.
I know what it means to you.
They gave us a limited amount of money, and we had a little company that was so small that it would fit into a teacup. And we were working with volunteers, and we put all of that money, except for $30,000, into the movie, into the screen that you see there. And we did not take any salaries ever. And the money we gave to pay for the volunteers and the rest of that stuff. And of course we had to pay for the wonderful editors that worked with us. And
the clips. All the clips from all those movies and all those TV shows, that's what ate up the budget like crazy, because you can't really tell their story without showing some of the things that they did. And I don't know if any of you noticed, but we told the entire story of Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, and their career without one frame of I Love Lucy footage in it.
Mm-hmm.
right.
I did notice that.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy? Because they wouldn't give us any.
Oh.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't. It was different people back then.
There you go.
It's not the nice people that work at Paramount CBS now. But they were
Tell them who did give you footage.
Oh, who did give us footage? So most of the budget went to Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show, because as you can see, all those appearances, every time they were on, they talked about their history. And so we could practically tell their entire story just with the Tonight Show. And it's a lot of money. I mean, that was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we couldn't afford it. We didn't have that kind of budget. And so I wrote a letter to Johnny Carson myself, and I faxed it. Remember faxes? I faxed it over, because it was 1992, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, I hope that somebody with some clout reads this. And I got a phone call like a half an hour later. And there's a guy on the phone, and he said, Lucy, this is whoever he was. I'm sitting here with Mr. C. And I went, oh? And he said, he wants me to tell you, he got your letter, he appreciates everything you said in it, and to tell Lucy she can have whatever she wants. For free. For free. He gave us the whole thing, because he owned the show, right? And he said we just have one thing to ask, please. Never tell anyone that he did this. But he's gone now. I can tell you.
And then what did you send him as a thank you?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you know my life better than I do.
Yeah, right, here I am.
Yeah, so he loves to play tennis. As a lot of people know, Johnny Carson loved to play tennis. And so the next day, I arranged to have a box this big and this high filled with tennis balls. And the card just said, Mr. C, you got a lot of balls.
I love it. I don't know what kind of emotional fortitude it takes to sit in a room full of strangers and watch your family trauma. Like, that's what you're doing, right? And so as you're putting it together, I know you had essentially like a dark night of the soul as you're putting it together, going, who's going to want to see this? Like, you have to relive it. And so I know that, Larry, you played a really instrumental role in guiding her through that, right?
Well, it became obvious that we needed some sort of a narrative to hold it all together, just to decide what was important and how it was going to go, what the arc of their story was. And we discovered it. My wife was very emotional about this. She did not want to do Mommy Dearest or Daddy Dearest or any of those things. She was absolutely...
Or just a tribute piece,
either.
I wanted it to be true and honest.
Yeah, and so we came up with the thought that everybody wants to have unconditional love in their lives. And these two people wanted it so desperately. And it's very clear to me, coming into this family as I did long after, that's absolute truth. This is not a Hollywood story. This is a story of two people who cared. And they could get it on television, that unconditional love, but they could never get it in life.
I have to say, the one thing that really changed it, which I think you might be referring to, is it was difficult because some of it's beautiful story, it really is, and it's funny, and trauma, though, I think I explained in the film, they both had some very difficult childhoods. Not any of it was their parents' fault, really. I mean, it wasn't like there was abuse, but revolutions and, just my mother, like I said, had a lot of death, a lot of horrible stuff happened, and that's PTSD. But then you have to tell this sad story to people who just want to laugh at I Love Lucy and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. But I thought the story needed to be told for people who come up to me constantly and say, what was it like? And they have that look on their face. And I have to say, well, like any family, there were ups and downs. It wasn't all sunglasses and autographs, as my brother would say. And so I would wake up sometimes tossing and turning in the middle of the night, and Larry would go, are you okay? And I said, nobody wants to see this. I'm in the middle of editing it, They just want to see the chocolate factory. And he said,
She cried a lot.
Honey, just follow your heart.
Yes.
And that's really what happened, and it really made a huge difference to me when he said that, because I understood immediately what that meant. And in your gut when you should stop here and don't go there, but you need to tell the truth here, but there's a way. I found that there was a way to be truthful and still be loving. Like maybe you have to say something that's really uncomfortable to tell people, but it was true, and you're not saying it just because it's true. There's plenty of stuff that was true that I didn't put up there. It's true, but it's important. It's a part of the puzzle that matters. But it's hard to hear. So then there's the choice of the music that you put under it. There's the choice of a photograph that you have right after that. And that's what I'm most proud of really now when I look at the film, because it's well balanced and it's honest and it's hard to hear sometimes. And then it's not. It's like, oh, that's just like my life. And I hear that from so many people, like, oh, they went through that too, you know? And it's really a story about two working parents trying to raise a family and stay together and all the stuff that happens. I think life is hard today in many different ways, you know, with things that we have. But so many people can learn from their story, from our story, I think.
Yes.
They call these families dysfunctional families. And I don't think there's when I was teaching acting students, I used to ask them, how many of you grew up in a dysfunctional family? And nobody would put their hands up back in the day. But gradually, they began to put their hands up. And I would say, and all the rest of you are liars. Because we know, all of you know, and I know, I grew up in one, that life is very, very hard, and you come to forgive your parents. You come to thank God we've had forgiveness, so that we can live our lives eventually understanding just who and what our parents were to us, and how much they cared about us.
And you know what makes you be able to finally forgive them is to walk a mile in their shoes, like I did by making this film. I wouldn't have understood some of the choices that they made and how they got into the places they were, where suddenly it was like all too much, unless you saw all the things that happened to get them there, right? And I was encouraging people after I made this film. I made a couple of little CD-ROMs. Remember them?
Even I remember them.
They were there for like 3 days. They were very popular. And I made a CD-ROM about how to save your family history, which was basically teaching people how to do what we did. No, it literally was called How to Save Your Family History. And it was sort of breaking it down for ordinary families about you got to get your family recorded on some sort of video or audio. Be great if you could do your mom and your dad in interviews like that before they're dead. You know, so you can ask them questions, and I have a list of questions, and even like how to put the background, don't get a tree growing out of their head, you know, how to photograph it or just do audio. Because I thought it was really important for people to investigate where their parents came from, what their challenges were, what the choices they had to make. Look at, you know, what you know about your mom and how it changed your life. And from that, that's where you find forgiveness, because you think, well, hell, if I had gone through all of that and then I got that offer to do that, and I had tried so hard to have a marriage and then that happened, of course I would have chosen that. And then oh my gosh, now what do I do? Quit the show? You know, quit my family? What do I do? So it makes you sort of let go of that, well, they were never home. Well, yeah, that's right. And we tried really, really hard with our kids, because we're two working actors too, right? To not, you know, be gone all the time, or when we're home to really, really, really be there with our kids. But it was still hard. I was at a couple of meetings or interviews with my daughter, Kate, who's sort of in the business too, and somebody was interviewing her, and we have a great relationship, and they asked her something, she said, well, it didn't, I don't know, when my mother was working all the time, she really wasn't home, and I went, what? Yeah, because it's not enough, it's never enough, you know, but all you can do is what you can do, you can just try, you know?
I'm sorry to interrupt there, but that's the thing you had with your mom, right? Your mom wasn't home, and then your own daughter says to you.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes, got it. I'm listening.
Well, you didn't even answer your mother's phone call.
Oh, this mother. Right, that mother, I pick a phone all the time. This mother, no, I didn't want to disappoint her. I got fired. That was the first time anybody has seen that.
Including me.
Including you. Did you?
I loved it.
Oh, that's good. Oh, thank
I
God.
thought it was great fun.
Good nice scene.
Yeah, it is explained earlier that he's adopted, by the way.
Actually, it's explained later.
Later?
Yeah, it's just a couple seconds later.
Oh, it's funny, because when he asked me to play his mom, I said, you think? I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Janice, raise your hand. Okay, so that woman over there was my very first tour guide at Warner Brothers. I was 12 years old. 12 is coming up a lot. And she and I have kept in touch ever since that day. And we were sitting in her car, and she goes, this is a cute little script. You should call Lucy. Play the mom. I went, what? Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that, because I said that in my brain, I was like, you don't bother Lucy Ernest. You don't do that. But internally, I was like, if she says no, I don't know if I can handle that. That's the real reason. And then, this is one of my favorite stories in the whole. I told this when you wrapped. I love this story. It was this is not about me, but I'm telling you anyway. It was the weekend of the Oscars when you were doing all the press for Getting the Ricardos.
Yeah.
And she went to the Oscars and did the whole thing. And I sent the script, and this incredible woman, busy as she was, in a hotel in LA, going to the Academy Awards. A couple hours later, she writes me, she goes, "This is adorable, I'd love to do it."
Because it was. It is. Maybe you see this film. It's adorable. It's really great.
That's how generous this woman is.
I know a good part when I see one.
Yeah, right. Next question. So, okay, talking of things, I'm going to go back to this movie. Talking of things that are hard to hear, Carol Cook says, very poignantly, "It is my belief that your mother's first love was her career, was her work." And talking of forgiveness, I'm wondering if where you are now in your life, do you feel that you have forgiven that? Do you feel settled in that? Or do you still feel a sense of
I understand that.
Right.
I totally understand that. My first love is not my work. I have to say, it's right up there. My first love is this guy. And then right next to that are my 3 children and our 3 grandchildren.
45 years.
In about a month. And that's the truth. I would not, but I think I know that because I lived that. So I'm grateful that I went through that so that I can know what's really important. But she had to have that work because, as I said in another little place in the film, she was running from something.
Yeah.
And people who run away from their feelings need something. Hers was work, and then even, and doesn't even have to be the work that's at the studio. I meant when she comes home. It's like, did the silver get polished? Did you clean out the closet? Or what happened to the garage? Are you going to... She had to focus on something. I don't know. Like, something must have just been hurting so bad in a lot of ways. And the kids couldn't fill it. The show couldn't... Well, the show filled it when it could, but when they said, "Cut, that's it, we'll see you tomorrow," then she had to turn else. I have a lot of that in me because I saw that. But I understand it now. I didn't maybe before, but when I was little, I also didn't even know the difference. I had never grown up in another family where it was any different. I had no clue that we didn't see them enough, right?
Yeah.
Like we saw them as much as any children see their mothers and fathers. I thought, who knew, you know? And it wasn't so much later that I realized, oh, I don't know how to do this mother thing. I haven't figured this, because it's different when you watch your grandmother with you or your nanny, Willie Mae, who they were great. Willie Mae was she was my mother in many ways. She taught me all the things that mothers are supposed to teach you. But she wasn't my mother, you know? And you don't bond with your parents if they're not with you in a certain way. Cutting to the chase, the Surviving Success talk I used to give people, and then I made into a CD. You'll hear me talk for an hour and 10 minutes in this talk, but the bottom line of the whole entire talk is a child psychologist who once said to me, if you could spend just 15 minutes alone with each child every day, that's all you need to do. And I went, what? Like, that's insane. That's nothing. 15 minutes, and I have 5 kids. We have 3 of our own, and I have 2 stepchildren. So I looked at him and I went like, oh, are you kidding? 15 minutes, I mean, each child? Every day? Oh my God. And I just was taken aback because we've been trying so hard to be these better parents. And he said the magic thing. He said, yeah, it makes them feel worthy of love. Look at those 2 people. Did they feel worthy? I'm not sure, because they went through stuff that kind of got in the way of that. And my father, as I listened to, I've seen this movie a lot. Not for a long time. There was years when I didn't watch it, but I edited it, you know, so I saw it a lot. And I'm still hearing things where I go, oh, listen to what he just said. Oh my gosh. Because what people say to you, or things like, was it Marcella Rabwin, who said Desi's father never wanted him to be more important than he was. Now, I always remember that part. But I didn't remember the part where she said, and that affected your father so that he wasn't able to stand up for himself or make himself as powerful or equal to my mother. It was like somebody was going to hit him if that happened, because that's how his father made him feel. And his mother said the worst things to him without ever meaning to. Without ever meaning to.
It's funny.
When he opened at the La Conga Club in New York, and he was the biggest sensation in New York, and the father divorced her, and she had to move in with him, and he's 26. And now he has to take care of his mother, who hates America and only wants to go back to Cuba. And she comes to see him in this show, and he does that magnificent, numbers that he used to do, and the singing and the banging on the drums and all of this stuff, the Babalu number. And after the show, he said, Mama, did you like it? Did you like it? And she said, why do you work so hard? You're trying to sweat. It was like, no, she couldn't say you were great, you did good. And years later, they bought them. They bought her a house in Beverly Hills when they had their first little tiny bit of money, and it was a big, big deal. I never knew this story till after my father was gone, and my mother told me this story. And my grandmother was already passed away. She was passed. His mother was gone, and she said, did I ever tell you this story? And your father and I bought this house for Lolita. It was Lolita. And we filled it with all the things she had lost in Cuba. We brought it all back. It was Christmas time, and she came into the house, and this is your house, Mama. And the tree was lit, and it was hundreds of presents underneath. And they sat her in this beautiful rocking chair, exactly like the one she had in Cuba.
The same cooking stuff.
The same set of cookware, the same linens engraved and embroidered like she had there, the same silverware. They spent every bit of money that they had. And after the fifth present that she opened, she looked up at my father and said, everything for the house? Do you understand?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't respond, so I'm saying, did you understand that what she was saying? Nothing for me?
Even though everything
Nothing
was
for me?
Yeah.
Imagine if you live with that kind of person. You might want to drink and screw around too. That's all I'm thinking. I'm just thinking I started to forgive some of the crazy behavior because he was trying so hard, and it was never quite good enough, so there were reasons. That's all I'm saying.
I could ask you a million billion questions, but I think maybe
That would be great. I'd love to hear from anybody out there.
I think the people out here would